Hi everyone. So today we'll be building a Fullstack and web application, and so I'll be like going through the phase on how to like build a full stack web application from scratch. So our employees like just follow up with this live section. So let's start. So I'll just like be showcasing how to like build it for you. So let me just start by sharing my screen, and so I'll share my screen now. So I'm sharing my entire screen, and then so let's start. So first thing first, what we need to do is to like set up a directory where we will like store our application. So the first thing that we need to do is to like have a directory where we like save our application. And then since we'll be building a full stack application, we'll make use of a software called SAMP, which you need to like install on your system. So I already have SAMP installed on my system, so I don't need to like start installing it. So what I just need to do is to launch it, and then I'll go to my VS Code and then go to the directory where SAMP is installed and where the websites and pages are already stored. So I'll go to cd dot dot then cd to SAMP. Sorry, I need to go to my local disk, not SAMP. So cd dot dot again, and then cd to where SAMP folder is, and then cd htdocs, which is the folder where all the web pages are stored, and then mk directory full stack app. So this is it, the main directory full stack app. So I've been able to do that. Now I need to cd into the full stack app directory. Since I've created the directory, that is a folder for it. Now I need to start like creating all my files here. So I'm already here now. What I need to just do is to like run code dot. So when you run code dot, that way it's going to create a new window for you. So that way it is going to open in the folder that you are like storing your all your files for your application. So let's just close the previous window, and then let's work with this window of our application. So we are in that folder where we created our application. Now what we need to do is to create a new file. So we say new file, and then we give it a name. So let's add a new file here. So that's the first page that you create whenever you are working with any PHP application. So you create an index.php file. So in the index.php file, we are going to be writing some code inside where we'll set up like a login form, a sign up form, and some other designs. So let's start. So we open a tag, and then you add the question mark, and then you say PHP. So this is it. Let's just echo something out first. Say echo testing my application. So to testing my application this way. Now let's open it in a browser. So let's go back and go to view terminal again so that we can just see our terminal and see what is going on where we are. Now let's go to the browser and let's go to localhost where we have our full stack, and then let's load up our full stack app. So we have testing my application on the local host. So this way now we've already initialized our full stack application. Now the next thing that we need to do is to set up our backend first, because we need to ensure that we have a reliable backend to be able to build a full stack application. And then we'll be making use of php So we have php which is installed when you like install SAMP, and so we just navigate to php that way. So php and then When PHP admin opens, we are able to like create a database. So now, so we've set up a database, and then we've set up a database. So let's PHP admin load up. While PHP admin is still loading, we can just like start like creating something. So we can set up an HTML file in a PHP document. Rather, we can set up an HTML code in a PHP document. So what we need to do is to say HTML. I think someone just joined us now. Hello, if you are on the meeting, can you please just like talk? Can you please just give a chat like, hello, how are you doing? Oh, I'm the one on the meeting anyway because I'm presenting. It's just showing. I was thinking someone was on the meeting. Okay, so let's continue. So while PHP admin is still loaded up, we like have to just wait for it. Now, let's set up an HTML page. So we say doc type, HTML, and then HTML. So we pass some links to our HTML file where we like include our styles and all those stuff. So we can say link rel is style sheets, then type is equals to text bar CSS, which signifies a CSS document. And then we can now pass an hyperreference link, which can point to a folder where we store our CSS link, or a CDN where we like load it from the web server. So let me create a new folder to set up all of that for our HTML. So I'll create a new folder, styles, CSS, and then another folder. Okay, so outside of the CSS folder, create a new folder again, and I'll say scripts for my JavaScript files because those are those three things that you need. And then styles, in styles, I'll say styles dot css, and then in my script I'm going to add a new file, say index dot js. So this way, whenever I need to write a script, I'll write it inside of this file, and then whenever I need to like design my website to set up a layout, I'll write it inside of this file. So let me just quickly drop some posts online again. So I'm just trying to invite people to join that way. So I've posted the link before, and I think people should be able to see it. But then, regardless, I'm still going to like just continue with the section while waiting for people to join. So so this way now we've been able to set up our styles, we've been able to set up our JS files, we've been able to set up our index.php for our landing page. So now what we need to now start doing is to set up our database and our design. So let's check if PHP admin has been loaded. So let's create a new database. Click on new while you're on PHP admin. And then when you create a new database, so you are going to give your database a name. I don't know why this PHP admin is very slow on this computer. So we don't have all time, we don't have all day. It needs to come up. So let's create this new database. I don't know why we wait for that. Let's do some other things. So in our HTML tag, we usually have an head section. So don't mind that stuff that is making a noise there. So we usually have an head section, and then in the head section, that's where we pass some of the informations that we need to pass there. So we pass our styles, some meta description properties. So we can just pass meta and all those stuff just for encoding, and then for the responsive layout and all those stuff. So this is it. Yeah, we have this now. So we can now start linking our CSS for our CSS to say to the folder where we have our CSS styles, and then styles.css. So this way now, and then the body, this is where we have our code, what is shown on the web browser. So for example, if I try to like run some PHP code inside of this body, I can say echo testing from the HTML body. So this way, then if we echo this, so this way now let's refresh let's refresh our page. Okay, I think someone just joined now. Hello, Zach. Hello, playing. Thanks for joining. Okay, so we have already like built an HTML page. If you are just joining, and then I'm just showing how to like create HTML pages, and then I've been able to like echo some PHP um, command on the HTML page, because what we'll be doing is to sign up, is to build a registration form for the forum. So now let's set up our form. So I'm on the VS Code now. And then if you're just, because you're just joining, I just need to like go back and see some of those things that I was saying before. So if you be like creating a full stack application, you need to have a backend, that is a database where you store your application. And then to be able to create a backend, you need to like set up a application called SAM, which you need to download on SAMP. Or you can go to SAMP and you can go to Google to like look for SAMP. So when you download SAMP, that way you'll be able to like set up a database in MySQL where you can like connect your PHP application to the backend. So let me just show you my database here. This is what I'm trying to say. So I'm going to create a new database. Let me just create a full stack app. That's the name of my database because I've tried to like create this database earlier on. So this is the PHP admin that comes with SAMP where you have your MySQL database. So this is what controls my MySQL database. So while I'm creating my form, let me just quickly create a login form. So I'll say input type is equals to test, and then give it a name. So this name attribute is what your backend, this is what your backend receives. So whenever you are trying to like create a form and then you are trying to like send it to the backend code, this is the attribute that is captured in the HTML code. So for example, let's give it a name of username, and then another one will be input type is equals to password, and then name is equals to password. So you can give this name any name you like, but then it's just okay to make it generic this way. Okay, so please, if you are just joining, please like, can you just like give an eye and just speak? Oh, I think I saw someone join now. They left. Okay, so the person just left now. Oh, no problem. I think I saw like two people or so. Okay, anyway, let me just continue. So just building, and then let me add my placeholder. So placeholder is what like represents what you are trying to put on the form. It gives an example to the to the intended users that is like trying to register on your website. So I'm giving it a placeholder. Then placeholder, so you can just type your password. So whenever you enter a password here, the password won't show. This is where you see the form for the password stuff. So I'm just trying to like retreat again because I saw someone join, then they left. So now let's continue. So this is where we have our section. So this is where we have our site. Now let's continue designing our HTML, and then that will be able to like so we need to style this stuff because we use our CSS to style, and then we've been able to pass our CSS in the head section. So what we need to do to style is to give it, we need to like look for our individual tags and give them a attribute called the class. So say class is from login, which is for the login form. And so we will start this login form by saying dot from login. We will say, let's just say maybe let's give it a width of maybe 80% at first. And then we want our login form to be at the center. So we say margin 0 pixels auto. This way, we can position it at the center. Now let's give it a background for it to be obvious that this is what we are trying to like work on. So let me just give it a rough red background first, and now let's view it in the browser to see what happens. So it has a red background, very good. Now let's set the display type to block, and let's target all the inputs inside of it. So we say from login, then we put a greater than sign symbol and say input start that inside of the login form should be display type block. So this way block. So when they are blocked, that means they need to like stack on top of each other. And then we set up a margin in between those input type forms. So we say each of these input type forms should keep a margin of 10 pixels from the top. That means 10 pixels each from the top. And then we are able to do that. We are able to achieve that. Now let's set a padding for them and say padding of let's just say maybe 10 pixels, 10 pixels. That is from the left to the bottom, from the left to the right, from the top to the bottom. So this way we are setting a padding for it, and then you can see the padding is obvious, and then it's putting a space in the form. Then the next thing we need to do is to like remove the border that is created by the browser on those forms. So we say border type is equals to none, rather border none. So that way the default browser that comes from the browser will not be there. Now our form does login. Let's create a padding inside the form page. So we say padding 10 pixels in the form container. That way there's a padding of 10 pixels. Now let's align this input form to the center. Our form is not actually at the center anyway, but then we need to align this input form at the center. So what we can just say is that we can say I think margin zero auto should also work for them. But before you can set margin zero auto, you need to set the width and just say maybe let's say a width of about 300 pixels for each of those forms. Then we say margin 0 pixels. So that way, let's see what happens. So now you are at the center. Now this form is too wide. I think we need to reduce the width. So let's just reduce the width to about, let's take it to pixels and say about 400 pixels. And let's see what happens. So this is quite cool. And then let's give it a margin from the top. Now, margin from the top, let's see. Let's give it about maybe margin from the top about an 80 pixels. Let's see what happens if we set 80 pixel margin. Okay, so is my screen still being shared? Very good. Okay. Let me just try to make some posts online just to see who joins. Okay, let me still continue anyway. Okay, so Twitter is live now. Let me just try to post. Okay, I'm trying to like bring people to join. Then let me just forward the link again. I think the network is kind of slow on the end of Twitter there. Okay, so let's just continue because we don't have very much time. Now, the next thing we need to add is our button to like allow users to be able to like register. So we say button type is equals to submit, and then we give it a name of submit. So whenever we try to like submit the form on the server, this is what is like received, and then we'll pass in a name to that button. Let's give it login. Let's give it login now. So login now. Then we'll pass a button to it that way. So we are trying to close the button tag. Now let's give it a star because we need to style our button, and let's say login button. So we need to give a class to it to style it. So login button, and in our CSS we go for dot login button, and then give it a style and say maybe let's just first of all remove the default border and say none, because this makes button looks ugly. And then give it a background color. Let's give it a background color of green. Let's give it a color of white. So the background color is green. The color that is going to show on the bottom will be white. Now let's give it a padding of 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and let's give it a border radius of 10 pixels. So this will make the button round. So this way. Now you can see. Now let's give the button a width and make the button big. So let's give it a width of about 200 pixels, and let's see what happens. Now let's increase the padding a little bit to 10, and then let's set the font size to 18 pixels. Now let's see what happens. Now let's give a margin from the top. Let's give the margin from the top. Let's give a margin of 10 pixels. Then let's see what happens. So this all this I'm doing is to style the page. So let's reduce this. And then if you are styling the page, it just beautifies what you are trying to do. Now let me remove the background color of red because I don't need it anymore. I'm just using it to check what's going on the phone. And then now let's pass a border to all these input elements and say border 1 pixel solid, and let's give it color, a light gray color. So this way we just like have a border around our registration form to make it visible. Now our login button needs to also follow up with this. So what do? We set margin 0 pixel auto. So we say margin 0 pixel auto. Okay, so thank you for joining. I think someone just joined us now. Oh, it was a Google Meet notification. So that way we need to continue regardless if people join or not. So let's see. Margin 0 pixel auto, because we've set a margin top before, that was why this is not working. And then we need to set up margin 0 pixel auto. Okay, so margin 0 pixel auto not working on the button. So what's the issue? What's the issue? What do we need to do? Should we need to position the button? Okay, maybe we should just try to like position the button, but then positioning it will like will disorganize the design. So margin 0 pixel auto needs to work. Let's see. Let me delete this first. The width is set, so margin 0 pixel auto is meant to work. Okay, maybe the display should be set to block. So oftentimes I think button are inline elements. So inline means that they don't like stack. So when you set it to block, that means they are going to stack whenever you work with them. So which means if you try to like use an inline element will just like allow an element to display next to it, just like the way you arrange a block on a row. So that's why the button was not was not going in the normal way that it's meant to go. So margin 0 pixel auto first, then margin top. That way it is going to set a space in between the button and the aha. So we have it this way. Now let's set the width again to about, let's see what's the width of the input form. So 300. That way the button should have the same width with the input form. Very good. Now let me close this. So username, your password, and then now let's beautify our. Let's go back to our index.php and just add some stuff to the form. And heading, say heading one, say login here. Then we'll close the heading and see what happens on the page. Control R to refresh it. Now let's align this to the center. So we can go to our style and say the form is the dot form login slash heading one. We say margin 0 pixel, or we can just say test align rather, because it is a text element. So we say test align center, not a blocker, not a container. It's a text element. Test align center. Now log in here. Now you can see login here. Beautiful. Now let's set a font family for our body. So you can just say body, this is the entire document, and say font um, family, and then give it sans serif. This font family is just like style the fonts of all the fonts that we have on our body page. So you can see the fonts changed. Now, very good. Now we have a login here, which is like a nice login login form. So what we now need to do is to like collect this information for the backend. Now let's go back to our backend and see if the full stack. So it has created this. Now we need to set up some SQL queries to be able to collect information from our front end, because whenever we collect information from our front end, our back end needs to store that information into the database. That's the way we build a full stack application. So we write an SQL command. SQL is another thing on its own. It's like a programming language but for database. So we say create table. So create table full stack, rather not full stack, login, or let's just say user registration. Say, or let's just say users. Create table users, then we pass this parentheses to it, and then we'll start giving the information. So we say the ID is equals to an integer, then we pass the level number of attributes. That means we can only expect figures that are in between 9 million, 9 billion, that way, like 0.000000000. That is, whenever the figure is more than this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is 9, so two more, 10, 11. So whenever the figure is more than this, then it can't be in our database. So what we're trying to say is that when we start counting from 1, 2, 3 to up to that level, so that is very much. That's about a billion, more than a billion users. So we say ID int 11, and then so this little app that we're building is not for a billion users. ID int 11, and then not lol. That is, it can never be empty. So the ID is like a constant value that increases every minute, and then it cannot contain empty values. That is, we cannot pass empty values inside of it. So we say ID int 11 not lol. Auto increment, then auto increment means that the ID should increase every minute. So whenever a new data is added, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, 3 becomes 4, that way. Not log auto increment. Then we pass it as a primary key. Primary key means that this is the unique identifier of all the elements that we are going to pass later on. So now let's say the user will be like filling their information, and they'll be passing their username and all those stuff. So we say username should be test, and then we can also say not no. So we can store the username as a test, and then the password can say character of like let's just say about 8, because we don't want our password to be more than 8 characters. So we say not null. So that means the user has to fill all of this. So when we create a new user, we know that we are collecting this information from the front end to the back end, and that's it. So we click on go. Now we've been able to set this up, and then our database will create a table successfully for all the users. Now we can set up users on our database. So let's go. Now the next thing that we need to do is to write the connection that like code that collects this information from the front end to the back end. So we have been able to do this, but then if you notice, this page is for login, not for registration. So what do we need to do? We need to create a new page and say save it as registration.php. By clicking Control N, in that same folder that you are, it is going to bring up a dialog and say registration dot, add a PHP extension to it, and then you add a PHP open tag here. So go back to index.php, and then this part we'll just copy it. Let's just say everything here. Let's copy everything here. Okay, so let's close this. Very good. Now we have all of this. Now this will be the registration.php, and then in the index.php we'll customize it and say paragraph don't have an account. Then we'll say EIPA reference link is equals to the current sign up page, not index for registration for PHP, and then we'll say sign up. Okay, so sign up, and then that way when you click on this link, it is going to navigate to the registration page. So in the registration page now, let's change this information to sign up here. What we are trying to do is to just like quickly set up a registration using the form that we've created now. Then we'll change this button to sign up. Now, this is it, all good. So let's see what happens on the first index page, which is our login page. So it says don't have an account, sign up. Now let's align the text to the center. So we say in the CSS, we target it and say dot form login slash p. The text align should be at the center. So that way, now we're aligning the text to the center, and then so this way now let's refresh and see what happens. Okay, so what did it say? It says okay, the p should be inside of the form. Why is it not like aligning the text? Well, I don't really know why. Let me just give the p a class then, and just give it a class of info, because it just pass an information to a new user that is visiting the site. So change this to dot info and say text align center. Now let's see what happens. Very good, all clean. Now all good to go. I think we need to increase the button a little bit. I need to increase the button size to maybe 320. I just want the button to like be in the same length with this. I think this is good. Now click on the sign up page. It is going to take you to where the sign up form is. Now you can see sign up here, and then in the sign up page also we'll add something. We'll add an info again and just say I already have an account, login. That way that we see it on most pages. So login, and then we'll pass the default landing page, which is always the index page. Already have an account. Already have an account. Login. So this way. So now this is the page where users will sign up. So we'll collect their information here. So we'll collect these two information, the username and the password. This name attribute is what we send to the backend. Now let's quickly do that. So to be able to like put this information to the backend, we need to pass an attribute to our form by saying action. So action means that the page that receives information from a form that is going to be sent to the backend. So we say um, handle um, registration.php, and then we'll create that handle registration.php file here. That's to be on the same directory where we have our other files, that is the sign up and login. So we'll receive the PHP, the front information in PHP, and say now since we are using a method, there are two types of method to submit a form, which is the post and the get method. But then the post method is used for sign up forms like this. So we are going to say $_post. But before we post, okay, let's just post and say $_post username. Then and then $_post password. So these ways. Now let's echo the information that we received from signup.php. So let's just echo this. And then we echo this also. This is the password the user is trying to like type. That way. Now let's see what happens. So if you try to refresh, Ctrl R, and then you go to sign up, which means you have passed this, and then you've saved all your files. So now let's fill up the sign up form page. Testing user. And then the password would be just testing. And then you click the sign up button. So you can see the information is on the back end, and then it is being received perfectly. So let's add a line break to it. So we use a dot to join strings in PHP. Then so yeah, then we are able to like break this. So when we refresh, we are able to break what the user has passed. So we can see the username, we can see the password. Now let's make it more obvious by saying username, then we join the string and then and say password, then we join the string. So this way, that was okay. Now let's give it a space by saying give it a space, and then we use the backslash t, which is the tab command. That is add tabs to it. This is a command from the PHP coding language. So you can see now username password that is being received from the front end. Now let's try with another user again. Go back to sign up, rather registration for PHP and fill an information. Patrick, then the password is just testing, and then you click on sign up. So you can see because I omitted the U, you can see. You can see that information. Now, what we need to now do is to capture this information and put it in our database. Okay, so what we just need to do is pass it into a variable. So we call something variable. These variables are like a data type that we use to store information about a particular stuff. So let's just say our username is equals to what we are receiving from the user, and then the password is equals to what we are receiving from the user, which is the password. So we change username to password. I was meant to put password there. Now, let's insert this into a database. To be able to insert this into a database, we have a function that calls our database. Now, our database is like a room, and in that room, it has a door. So that door, to be able to like open that door to access that door, we call something like a port. So that port is what is the key to open that door. So whenever you are working with backend languages, you make use of so many applications, not even the database alone, but for basic applications like this, we will just lower down to the database. And so we need to know where the port that the database is to be able to call our database. And by default, our port for storing databases is 3306 for MySQL, if I'm correct. So it should be here, 3306. So MySQL is running on 3306. That means MySQL is open and you can see the service is running in SAMP application. When you show it, you can see it in green. So we don't have a problem. Now the next thing that we need to know is the environment that we are. So we are on our local environment, which is our local server, which is where we are like have MySQL host. That is, the local server is just like the house that stores MySQL. Now, next thing we now need to know is that we have some credentials that we use to access MySQL. Okay, after we've gotten the key, are we the owner of this house where we can start accessing MySQL? If you are not the owner, MySQL will tell you that you are not the owner. So that is where we pass those credentials. So we use MySQLi connect, which is like a function in PHP to connect to a database. And then you can see all the parameters that you need to pass. So host name, which is the login name, and then the username, then the password and the database. So the host name is the local host, and then the username will be the root user because we are using the root user. Root user is the owner of the house. Then the password is empty, and then the database name is the database that we created here, which is Fullstack, which has a table of users. So we say full stack that way. Now this is created, and then we have been able to connect to MySQL. Now let's see if we connect successfully. So we say if not, so let's pass MySQL into a variable. Say it's going to return a boolean. So we say connection. So we say if not connection, we use if, which is like a conditional statement to like conditional statement to like showcase if a condition is working fine. If it is not, return some information. Let's see what happens. So we say if not dollar MySQL, which is the connection that we try to like connect to our database. Now let's see what happens. So we say echo invalid connection. However, if it works fine, then say connection is valid. That is, it is working fine. We are able to access MySQL, which runs on port 3306. Because when dealing with backend code, you will do more of connecting to different applications. So let's see what happens. So it says on course MySQL extension on those database full stack. So it is full stack app, not full stack. So MySQL is connecting that way. Then we can see it's working perfectly fine. So You can see that error has shown that my SQL is working. So let's see what happens. Connection valid, that means my SQL is connected. Now let's delete this part and then let's move on. We're not having any error. So what we just need to do is to say we need to store this information into our database. So to be able to store this information in our database, we run a query and say SQL is equals to insert, which is an SQL query, into users, which is the table we are trying to insert to this table, and then the column names. So we say username, password, and then we pass a values dollar username, which is what we are trying to pass. So we pass inside a string, and then dollar password, which is this, and then we say query, which is to use the connection that we've made to the database to send that information. We say MySQL query, which is another function from the PHP ecosystem. And then we'll pass our SQL statement that we just wrote. And then this way, we'll now check if this SQL query is successful. So if dollar query, because it returns a boolean, I guess also. So we'll say echo query executed successfully. However, if this fails, we'll say else echo query not executed. Now let's see what happens. So let's see. Okay, so let's go back to our registration of PHP because we don't want to start refreshing this page and undo the registration. So we just pass and then test user. So query executed successfully. That means it works. So the response is that it is true. The query executed successfully. Now let's see the user that we have in our database. So you can see username and then password. So this is just basically how a simple login and registration form works. And then thank you for reaching the end of today's live video. So on the next live section, we will be creating the enhanced version of what we have been building today. We want to ensure that our password is not visible to the users, and then we want to ensure that we can sign up into our application just like a normal web application that you see online that you're going to register and sign up. So we want to do that and enhance the application. So I'm going to see you on my next live session. So thank you for watching. See you next time.